Quack-a-doodle-doo, what is up, fellow birds of the spiral? It is your friend and pal Fearsome here with another guide, and this time we are going to be talking about all things witch doctor. So prepare the sacred fowls to be fed. We are going to get right into this video. Alright, so we are going to be looking at the gear first. Alright, now we're on hats. Um, so I'm going to also be explaining what the powers do because this is a very power-based game and not so much stat-based, and this is the reason why some of my gear comes from Cool Ranch. So it's because of this ability here that you also get in Cool Ranch as a privateer called Veiler's Armor. This ability is super good to have because it is a protection that does not run out. It has infinite range and it basically has more health than a heal. Not only that, but this ability makes it basically absorbs chains. So if someone criticals, they won't double tap or blade storm off of that unless they break the Veiler's armor. So it is super useful to have. It also gives you a good bit of protection while allowing you to benefit from elusive and turn the tide because you're half health but you have a shield on, so you're protected and you have the bonus of being in half health. So that is those are some really good reasons why you might want to have some Veiler armors around. It's particularly good in 4v4s with standard rules, but good in other areas too. The next hat that I have is this Corrupted Wushi's hat. Now you can get this from the Tower of Mu Manchu. You can get a level 65 version, you can get a level 55 version, but it all does the same thing. It gives Mornsong, Jobu's Embrace. There might be like a difference of 1 or 2 will, but that's not really altering anyway. Obviously the max one is best, but it's not any. If I had a level 55 version of this, I would not complain. Yeah, it gives Mornsong and Jobu's Embrace, so that's pretty much the only reason I have it. The next one I have is Hood of Thanatos. You can get this from the Skull Island Bazaar. It gives a Mojo Storm, the most powerful Witch Doctor attack. It's definitely its most powerful AoE attack. And I think that's it, so we are going to move straight on to the coats. Alright, now we will have a look at the coats. Clicked on my companions there. Coats. As far as coats go, you have a couple options as well. I have this one equipped right here currently because I like having the extra Mojo Storm and the Mornsong. Also gives a good bit of magic resist, but once again comes from the Tower of Fu Manchu level 60 version and level 55 version. I honestly would not go to the trouble of farming the Mu Manchu dungeon again if I got the level 55 version, because what is important here is, the abilities that it gives. The stats, not so much. Alright, next option I have is something called the Camo no Sensei's Garb, but there's also a level 55 version that you can get in Marleybone. The name was escaping me for a second, but it gives the same thing, Veiler's Fortress. It doesn't matter which of these that you have. I have a level 1, and I was not willing to go to the trouble of farming for a new one, or I trashed it or something, but a Veiler's Fortress is what this gives. Maybe slightly different stats, but that's what's important. Another Veiler's Fortress, super useful to have. And I have this a PP Greatcoat. Hopefully I said it right, but it gives Heat Metal and Widow's Touch. Again, the powers are what's important here. Now, Heat Metal is a very situational power because in most times you're going to be using Witch Doctor. You're not going to be facing people who have like a lot of armor. I think Buccaneers, Nausicaa has a lot of armor, but Buccaneers in particular, this does a lot of damage to. The slow is also kind of nice, but my guess is that you'd want to do a Mornsong or something like that early on for pressure, and you'd want to slow with Exeter, which I'll be talking about Exeter later. But it's nice to have this piece of gear around. Honestly, it's not very powerful, but it's just another option. And that pretty much covers all the robes that you could possibly use, except this one here. Shaman's Leathers. Honestly, this is just another robe. You could get it at the bazaar as well. What's important is it gives Walk in Darkness, and it's only useful for 1v1s really. But the problem is Witch Doctors are already bad for 1v1s. Get a top player who plays Witch Doctor and a top player who plays any other class, and they will lose consistently, is my point. They're not a good 1v1 class. So that covers robes, and we'll move straight on to boots. Alright, so we're on the boots. You have a couple of options for boots. The most common, and I guess the default, is Corrupted Wuxi Sandals, just for the Mojo Storm and the Jobu's Embrace. Again, Tower of Fu Manchu, levels 55 and level 60 versions, just as good, minus a little stat difference, but that's not too important. I have these Gladiator Gators. Once again, Walk in Darkness is not all that useful outside of 1v1s, and Witch Doctor is not a good 1v1 class. I have these Swami Slippers for an early big guns. I actually don't use that one very often. Here's some Conqueror's Boots for the Shadow Step. If you want to get downfield quickly, I guess this could be good. Another option is you could wear these Master Smuggler Greaves. And if you wear these, you can actually go all the way down the field and hit just about everything on the field, depending on where you spawn. But it's fun to play around with this. Honestly, I would just stick to either these, or if you cannot get these for any reason, I would go to the Skull Island Bazaar and I would get something that gives revive. These other options are more just for having fun and trying new stuff out. If you find something that works with these other options, then go right ahead. But I would just stick to this for the most part. And that's pretty much all I have for boots. We're on to weapons, guys. Now, Witch Doctor is a bit unique from other classes because they don't really do much of their damage from their weapon at all. So what's actually important is the range on the weapon. That being said, the best weapon in the entire game for Witch Doctor currently is Fu Manchu's wand. Why am I saying this? Because it gives 6 range. Now, there's another wand that, is almost as good in many ways. It gives 6 range as well. The difference really here is the damage your weapon does. Like, in the rare situation that a Witch Doctor would run out of all their powers, having this Fu Manchu's wand would be advantageous, but at the same time, the chances of a game lasting that long, or the powers doing that, considering that, let's have a look at the powers for a second. 1, 2, that's 3 pages of powers right there. I mean, that's a really intense game. If you decide to equip like mostly Fu Manchu gear and you become a damage hitting witch, you're close to 5 pages of powers. So that's not going to happen anytime soon, and that's one of the main reasons why you want a weapon that gives range first and foremost. Now, the easiest drop here is Fool's Wand, and if you get it, don't sweat yourself about getting this Fu Manchu's wand. It's not that important. Now, I happen to have it because I was very lucky. But I'm pretty sure most other people won't be so fortunate. Other than that, like for ranked PvP, you might want to get this Fall Champion's Scepter. Once again, I would not suggest trying to climb in ranked PvP as a Witch Doctor, but I have done it before. Angry Orchard does allow you some protection against charging Buccaneers if used correctly. But that's all I have for weapons. Alright guys, we're on to eye patches. Eye patch recuperation is hand down the best eye patch. It's not even close when it comes to other eye patches, but there are a couple of options you can go for. You could go for this Claviance eye patch, Tariasis Claviance eye patch, or however you say it. It's better than nothing. It does give some magic resist in Leviathan's Call, which is okay, but again, it is usually a good idea to use your Witch Doctor for team PvP in general. And having that extra mojo and all that really helps your revives. And the fact that you have a long range weapon helps you heal at a long range. There really are no better options when it comes to eye patches. So first and foremost, try and get this. You can basically get it by farming Sato, and you can get some other good drops as well. I mean, if you really want to try something with Shadow Step, I have before with Musketeers, where I basically slow them and I dance around them with Shadow Step. But once again, that's mostly versus bad players. It's not going to work against anyone who's actually good. That's all I have for eye patches, guys. We're along to totems. Once again, Veiler's Fortress is very good. You can get this from like the Earth Guardian in Merzimoon Castle. If you don't know where that is, once again, guys, use the wiki link down below in the description. You can search all these items and where to farm them. You can also search abilities and find pieces of gear that give them. You can also, search classes as well and find like gear for classes, like Witch Doctor in this case. But yeah, great resource down below in the description. All right, we have the Deathspore Talisman next. You can get this at the Skull Island Bazaar. Another Mojo Storm. And this here Talisman of Fu-Manchu that drops in the Tower of Fu-Manchu. So that's really all I have for totems. Now, I guess you could also use a Revive totem if you're going for a witch that pretty much heals most of the time, but I recommend these three in most instances. Now, I did mention about the powers in my previous guides, but those classes all were pretty much for 1v1s. You're a, the reason why Witch Doctor doesn't usually bounce his powers is because it's primarily used in 4v4 and 3v3 and sometimes in 2v2. So it's best played with a support class or as a support class. Just because it's mostly for killing a lot of companions early game and gaining companion advantage. They're very strong for that. In 1v1s, the pirates are much more involved right away, and Witch Hunter is just so much of a bummer. You know, you won't be using for 1v1. So completely ignore the bounce of power thing. I have my Witch Doctor set up for protection and protection only, minus this piece of gear right here. That being said, let us talk about the charms. So I have this charm here, Veiler's Armor, very good. But I could also go damage Witch Doctor, damage carry Witch Doctor. So I have the Mojo Storm amulet available as well. I also have this Jade Fleet charm. I don't like using this very often, but it is a big guns in case you want to go that way when it comes to Witch Doctor. And that covers charms. Moving right along to rings. Alright, so as far as rings go, this ring here is a great ring. Again, Veiler's Armor, pretty good for Witch Doctors in general when played in more of a support role. But you also have the Brain Thief ring that gives the Mojo Storm and the Jobless Embrace. Once again, guys, if you aren't getting either of these, then you can sub in something from the Skull Island Bazaar. I think there's a ring that gives Mojo Storm, and there might be one that gives Revive as well that you could use. So keep that in mind, and that pretty much covers everything having to do with rings. Alright, here's something that gets misunderstood quite a bit, the Witch Doctor pet. Now, what makes a good Witch Doctor pet is the heals. Why am I saying this? Because Witch Doctors don't do much of their damage off of wand hits, or if they do in that case, they tend to get themselves killed quite frequently because of Witch Hunter. So, that is the reason why I am saying that. They're an ability-based class, and it's best played as an ability-based class in a team battle. Alright, so group heals are very nice to have. Regroup, Rainbow Bless. Rally is also great to have. Soul Reaver is alright. Elusive is pretty good too. If I got like a ruse or something like that, I also wouldn't complain. I'm not saying I have a perfect Witch Doctor pet, but I have the right idea. Also, guys, if you want help with your pets, I tend to stream and interact with the community and help them answer questions and get them good pets. Myself and other community leaders usually join this event. It's called Pet Morph Friday. So I'll be live streaming that. If you need yourself a pet, be sure to show up to one of those and ask in the stream chat, and I'll be glad to get you whatever you need. All right, let us continue the video. All right, guys, we're on to companions. Now, don't expect anything super long. I'm just going to be showing you guys basically what I have on mine. Keep in mind that you may be using your Ratbeard or your Bonnie Ann in slightly different ways. Just try and think about it logically. I plan on making in-depth guides and linking them down below in the description, particularly for the future class guides that I will be making. So that being said, here is how I have my companions set. There is Old Scratch. Once again, I'm mostly using for for PvE because he's usually banned. So he isn't really too important to get right as far as how to set him, unless you use him in ranked, which honestly I would not play Witch Doctor in ranked PvP. Nazca, there are several different ways you can set your Nazca up, but here is one of the ones that is pretty effective. Goronando, this is the best setup for Goronando. Same thing for Exeter, and that's what he has. Bonnie Ann, have her set up as a counter musketeer. You could just as easily sub in Overwatch for the quick draws and have Overwatch 3. You have Pepe de Torto. I would honestly get rid of this Overwatch and make it into a return fire. Contessa, that's how I would have my Contessa set up. Very good utility companion for the Gallant defense in particular, but she also provides pressure with Walk in Darkness and Backstab. Here's a look at Ratbeard. Ratbeard tank blocks things. You could go, hold the line 3 instead of repel 3, but I like hold the line 3 in most situations. Caractacus. Honestly, there are better options, many better options, but here's a look just in case you want to use them. And now we have Carcarius. Much better options, but once again, in case you want to use them, here you go. It's one of the better Witch Doctor companions. Zhang Cha. The reason why I have my Zhang Cha set differently on Witch Doctor is because Witch Doctors have something called a bird spell that gives abilities. Let's see, I'm going to find it in my deck real quick. See, it gives attack talents, and one of the attack talents is First Strike. So if I put a bird spell onto Zhang Cha, he will have First Strike 3. So he's counter Swashbuckler and pretty good at it. So I would use something like El Toro, Ratbeard, and Zhang Cha, because having the Turn the Tide is like super good to have, and of course the Buccaneer Smash. So it makes for a pretty good combo in those situations. But yeah, that's how I have mine set up, and I recommend having yours set up in something similar, in a way that's similar. So here's El Toro. Here are his abilities. Here's how I have them set. I recommend setting them the same way. Temujin, once again, I plan on making more detailed guides for each of these companions, but here is how he is set. Lefty. Lefty is honestly not used much, but just go for chaining epics like Burst Fire, and of course, double tap, Honestly, there's just too many options that are a lot better. I should make a guide on this guy later on. I don't know if he's really good or not, because I really haven't messed with him. But he has bad movement, no gap closers. He can get rank 5 abilities, so I'm going to have to mess around with him some more. Campo, pretty decent, mostly because he can use bird spells to increase his bad movement speed. But that does take a turn off the Witch Doctor that doesn't usually pay off very well because he is quite squishy. Alright, I think we are on to companions that do not matter much. Why the heck did I get Bosun Bud? Some people think he's good. I don't use him, and I beat most people who use him. But because some people think he is good, I will show you how I have mine set. So here we go. That's a quick look. Bladestorm 3, Vintage Strike 3. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward. And people think he's good because of his starfish that blow up and do a ton of damage, but those are so easy to avoid. You can just bomb them or something like that, and they'll just go away. So easy to counter. He's not really a good companion. I don't recommend having him around. Oh, goodness. Here we go. We have this here snake. And now there's some 4v4 potential with this guy, because having companions that can combo is really good, but after you use this ability right here, she'd really fall off, so maybe she's not even worth it. She's kind of like having a dead companion that kills other companions early in the game. Just not really very good, but, just something fun you may try to experiment with later on. Now if you're using Beast Banner, maybe having these these creatures would be fun, but I don't really have any setups for them right now. Maybe I will in my future guides. So that pretty much sums up all the useful companions that witch doctors have or can get. Alright. Alright, so power setups next. Here is a damage carry witch doctor setup, primarily specializing in AoEs and moving down the field in the first couple of turns of the game. With this setup, you can have 7 Mojo Storms, one of the best AoE powers in the entire game. And Witch Doctors, they have 8 range on their attacks. So having these Mojo Storms, being able to hit at 8 range, and the fact that they're AoEs dishes out a lot of damage quickly. That being said, look at this. For the first 2/3 of this entire first page, you have AoE attacks. No other class can do this. Okay? Not only that, you have a lot of great single hits right after that. Now, you could move the single hits up early and just sit in the back. You could Mourn Song, but I mean, which do you think would put more pressure on? The AoE hits or the single hits that can be healed off very quickly and easily? Yeah, it's definitely the AoE attack. So this is what I recommend if you're going to go um, damage carry Witch Doctor. You could also switch this up for PvE. It's already pretty good for PvE. But if you have the Frozen Tide boots and or the Blood's coat, you could always put Frozen Tide and Blood Flames in there as well in the first and second power for PvE setup. But other than that, I would not change this at all. Alright guys, here is a team battle setup that I like to use quite frequently on my Witch Doctor. You usually do either a mixture of the one that I talked about earlier, the Damage Carry Witch Doctor, with a mixture of support, or you can go full support and full damage carry. But here is the support concept of Witch Doctor right here. You want to go as many fortresses as you can. In the case of Witch Doctor, they can only get 2. And then you want to go Veiler's Armor after that, and then you want to put all of your heals in, and then you want to put in some AoE hits and stuff like that. And I didn't mention this on the other setup, but you want to put all of your summons in the back because it'll pretty much only be useful in late game. Now, if you're against someone and you know they're going to be stacking a lot of protections, then you may want to move your Purge magic up a little bit higher. Like sometimes I'll even put it up at the very top of my power page. I don't really have much as far as 1v1 setups goes because first off, I would never recommend you play Witch Doctor in a 1v1 in this current meta. Now hopefully they fix Witch Hunter and make Witch once again viable, but for now, don't do it. That's all I can say. Alright, guys, let's have a quick look at the powers that you want to train for Witch Doctor. So, first thing you want to train is Ruse, super useful. After that, you want to train the rest of the Privateer powers. I think you have to train Gunnery in order to get Ruse, but you also have this mini fort you can use. The reason I have it on my setup so low is because in most situations I would just burn it because it's not worth the churn. Let's see, what else you want to train? Now, Calm the Troops is okay to have, so I trained that as well. And I have this here 3-round hide as well from the Swashbuckler trainer, and that's pretty much all I have trained for powers on Witch Doctor. Alright, next we're going to talk about talents. Now, as far as what you want to get from other trainers, here's a look. You want to have Fast 2, it's especially important for Witch Doctor, especially if they're Damage Carry Witch Doctor, but you have to train Stabby 2 in order to get to that. You also want to train Witch Hunter. Here's something else you want to train called Elusive. You want to train Elusive 2 if possible. Now I can do that, and I probably should have done that a long time ago. I just haven't done much with my Witch Doctor. I understand how to play because I had my Witch Doctor set up a couple of different ways a while ago. But I need to use these 4 training points, and I need to train the second elusive because there's not really anything better to train for Witch Doctor. So those are the talents you want to train for Witch Doctors, guys. And that almost wraps up the video. All right, now let's talk about the class in general. So first off, I would not recommend this as a class to start out the game. I would not recommend maxing this class in most instances, especially if you have to choose between this class and just about any other class in the entire game. Witch Doctor is really the worst class. Don't use this class in 1v1. Don't try and climb in ranked. It's just not worth it. Mostly because of Witch Hunter. That being said, how can you play Witch Doctor? The best ways are pretty much as either a full-on support with forts and Velar armors and heals and buffs and stuff like that while chipping in for damage every now and then. And then there is the full damage carry Witch Doctor with 7 Mojo Storms where you try and move them down the field as soon as possible and you try to really dial up the early game pressure and gain the companion advantage. So that is Witch Doctor in a nutshell, guys, an ability-based class. I will see you guys in my next guide. I am actually debating on whether I should make a hybrid melee musketeer guide or not. Put that down below in the comments. I have a feeling that'd be very popular and a lot of you guys would enjoy it. But I also want to get started on the specific companion guides as well. All right, peace out for now.